I'm not sure you're gonna find it by my coordinates, but anyway, I've put it in the chat in case you need it.
Thank you.
So there's a playlist down there that's called SanchoNet Workshop. If you click on it, it should be the 11th. Hey Nick,
Okay.
Hello.
how are you, good sir?
Not bad. How you doing?
Busy as always.
Yeah.
I'm working on the extension of this infographic. Oh, we don't see it. Hold on. Something happened. Oh, it's the old screen that I need to. There you go. So yeah, I'm working on the extension of that. So this represents all the governance group of the protocol parameters, and right now I'm working on the technical group. So I don't know when it's going to be available. I don't have any deadlines for this one, so I'm going to take my time, make sure it's pretty. So yeah, it's coming.
Super fun.
It is coming.
Cool.
All right. So just to make sure that everyone knows, it's an interactive workshop, so everyone can talk, everyone can ask questions, everyone can debate. That's pretty fun actually, and you can add your point to the presentation because it's not really a presentation actually. It's just me talking with you guys, and there's actually Ryan that's there, my SanchoNet nemesis. If you don't know Ryan, if you don't know Ryan yet, we have that sort of duel on SanchoNet, and he was doing stuff that I was trying to go against, and vice versa, and we built a relationship like that. He's the one of the developers of the centralgov.tools that you guys use to test the features as a DRep with the wallets that you might know already: Eternal, NewFi, uh, Yoroi, all sorts of wallet, Lace. So he's there with us today.
Hi, how's it going? It's good to see you guys. What time is it there for you, Mike?
Here it is, 11:30. It's
Okay.
4 hours before UTC time zone. So, if we want to get started, do you guys have any questions related to governance? And it could be anything. There's no stupid questions, like absolutely not. I've been asked a lot of things, like why don't we have, for example, saturation point for DReps, right? And actually, that's a pretty interesting topic as well. So if any questions comes to mind, Ryan.
I suppose it's a question. For the governance parameters, what do you think the DRep deposit should be, Mike? What's your take on the DRep deposit and maybe the governance action deposit?
Actually, since I'm not stuck and entangled into an NDA for this one, I can answer that. The recommendation that we made as a team, as as the governance protocol parameter committee, was 500 ADA, just like stake pools. But my opinion was that we needed this to be as low as possible. So my personal suggestion, was 280. But we ended up.
Yeah, because when I saw the recommendations, I thought 500 was high. I didn't really understand that.
It's yeah.
I guess it encourages people to delegate because you don't want to lock away 500 ADA. But
I think
do we want that?
Yeah, well, the general idea was about the seriousness of the registration, as if the person who's going to register as a DRep needed to be serious enough to do so. That was the general opinion, I believe, because my personal opinion was to have it as low as possible. My take was 280 to make sure that, especially in the beginning, we would have enough DReps,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
this is still something that we can update after. So when it's done, we would have probably like tried to raise it, I guess. But yeah, we ended up with the same amount as it cost to be a stateful operator. And also, this would kind of force the DReps who wanted to go inactive or didn't really care anymore about governance. It would kind of force them to unregister their DReps instead of just leaving it there, because
Sure.
recuperating that 500 ADA was worth more than just leaving a 2 ADA out there as a deposit. So for all those reasons, that's why we got to that number. But again, it can be changed by the community. So it's up to you guys to decide. Actually, I can just like pull all those parameters up. Where are they? There they are. Remy.
Yeah, hello everybody. So I had a small question. It's the first time I'm participating in this meetup. I'm just gonna kind of lay low and spectate. But I have a small question because when and I'm not subscribed. When I became a member in Intersect from the Intersect website, there was a mention of a yearly fee, I think. What is it about the yearly fee of being a member in Intersect?
There's no yearly fee. I never heard of that. You you don't have to pay to be a member of Intersect. You just have to participate and then be there and get involved.
As a member, hey Mike, sorry to interrupt. So, as a member-based organization, that's usually how most member-based organizations are funded. At the moment, there is no fee, but I do believe that in the future there is a plan for members to actually pay the dues. That's kind of how MBOs are funded.
Really?
Yeah.
How, how,
Yeah.
how come don't we just, withdraw money from the treasury for that?
Well, we could technically, but yeah, normally for most MBOs, and this goes for the one that CF is also setting up, it's all going to be funded with the dues of the members.
Yeah. I can maybe give some more thoughts on that. Yeah, for individual members, there's going to be different tiers of membership at Insect, like other MBOs. For individual members, so if you're not a company, if you're just yourself, you want to represent yourself, you want to take part in working groups, there'll be a small yearly fee. And I think the payments, it's below. I don't know if I can say, but it's a very small fee for a year. And then most of the money will come through organizational members and organizations, which will pay a lot more or pay a decent chunk more, but also get like different benefits for that. So like more like grant opportunities, stuff like that. So if you run an organization in Cardano, which has certain expertise and you can apply for Intersect grants, then you'll be expected to pay a higher membership, pay for a higher membership tier essentially. Yeah.
Hmm.
Great.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's in the works. It's in the works. I think things will be officially announced in the coming couple months.
Well, I would love to see more. We do have some member-based organization that's forming up, but it would be nice to get more. On another topic. Okay. Yeah. So as you may know, DReps don't have a saturation point, which means that if the community wanted to, they could delegate like nearly billions of ADA, that's hypothetical, to DReps. And according to the way they think, the DReps should be situated somewhere in that spectrum. What does that mean? In an extreme way, it means that if the community want a dictator, they're going to get a dictator. And if they want something more democratic, they will spread their delegations to make sure that it stays democratic. But again, depending on the opinion of the DReps that has the highest stake, we're going to be somewhere in this map. And I was very interested in that. And you have to still consider that, we do need at least 2 governance bodies to cross their threshold to make anything pass. But on the DREP side specifically, I do believe that we're going to stand somewhere in there. So I would have liked to have your opinion about that. And that brings me to the fact that we have no saturation point, we have no maximum amount of delegation to DReps, and one of the reasons is you can't enforce that. Why can't you enforce that? Because it's 1,000 times easier to generate DRep credentials than it is to create a stake pool from ground up. And Ryan might know that already. It's from the CLI, it's like, I said 8, it's probably 8 to 12 lines of code. It's pretty easy, super fast. It doesn't cost much, actually, and you don't need to provide resource. So when I'm done with voting, I just close my computer. That being said, since you don't have that kind of limit, you cannot, at the ledger level, enforce a democracy on that system for DReps. So we could have somebody, I don't want to say names, but I'm going to say Husky for fun because nobody knows. Well, we do know Husky, but I'm going to say Husky this time. Let's say that Husky has like 2 billion delegations. He's going to get more power than someone that has 1 million, for example. And depending on the way he thinks about governance, we're going to end up with, could be dictatorship, could be anything pretty much, but it's going to go accordingly to his opinions. You wanted to add something? I thought you raised your hand.
No, I was trying to find the emojis and I clicked the hand on accident. So no,
Oh.
I will be your dictator should you choose to, though.
It was just an example. And is it good? Is it bad? And that's where my opinion might be totally different than yours. If the community wants a dictator out there, they're gonna get a dictator. If they want a democracy, they're gonna get a democracy. And depending on what you got, it will speed up or slow down the decision making around governance actions. Oh, who was first? I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Was it Nick? Go ahead, Nick.
So isn't there a concern with ETFs and this idealism? Because that's where my main problem is the requirement of a great deal of ADA can cause this very easily, I'd imagine. I don't know. What's your thoughts?
It is quite possible. Let's say that exchanges and ETFs use the people's investment to vote on for themselves. Not necessarily for themselves, but for things that goes towards their opinion. If I do use money that I do not own to vote or as voting power, there's nothing that can enforce them not to do it on chain. But that being said, I'm hoping that the people who has the choice will go towards DReps that are not those kinds of organization, because you technically can't stop them from doing that. the only thing that you can hope is that we can leverage that with more stake towards DReps that are actually fighting for the good cause.
Couldn't we require them to use Franken addresses when they acquire the ADA? I mean, larger corporations looking for an ETF. Isn't that a possibility? Or putting two addresses together so they can't stake it. They can only use the money for the ADA for money wise, I guess, if that's the way to say it.
Yeah, but again, you can require it, but you cannot force them to do so on chain because the ledger doesn't make the difference. The ledger won't be able by itself to recognize that kind of entity versus you, me, Ryan, Oski, right? So you have to have tools and ways to help people delegate to the right persons. So, for example, when you register as a DREP, you can be private, of course, but you can also provide rationale. And actually, it's I don't remember the SIP. That's the SIP 128, was it? For the DREP
For what
registration,
site?
the standards.
119 is DRep registration metadata.
119, yes. So if you go there on the on the Cardinal Foundation website, no, actually it's the repository, and you look for the SIP 119, you should see a standard file that you can use as a template, an explanation on how to identify yourself. Not necessarily identify yourself, but you express what kind of DReps you want to be. And I hope that it's going to be seen in the wallets eventually. I mean, that's the goal, right? That's what it was for. And I hope that the community will go towards these DReps. Because, yeah, of course, the exchanges have a lot of ADA. And they might, if they want to participate, which I believe they should not, but still, if they want to participate, they might have a lot of voting power. But again, they cannot control everything by themselves because they still have to go through one of the other governance bodies to make anything pass. At least one more. So it's up to 3 governance bodies for each action. So it's minimum 2, maximum 3. So yeah. Which means that even if, for example, an extreme DREP controls everything, they still have to go through the constitutional committee to make anything pass. And if what they do is seen as something unconstitutional, it's not going to pass. But I do believe that the ADA is spread enough within the community, so hopefully it's not going to happen, but we don't know. We don't know yet. We can just hope that a lot of DReps or a lot of you guys are going to register as a DRep, and even if it's private or public, you will delegate to yourself or try to get delegations from the community.
Thank you.
Yeah, but again, if, for example, all the exchanges decide to participate actively, we're going to be somewhere in there for sure. And it's probably going to be on the right side instead of the left side, but not necessarily on the authoritarian part of it. So I'm probably expecting maybe some form of capitalism, but slightly on the authoritarian side rather than the libertarian side, if that's the case. But the exchanges could also decide not to participate, which would probably be better seen by the regulation authority. Who knows? If they go abstain, then they don't get involved, then they have the regulators have probably less incentive to put them into trouble, I guess. But it's just speculation at this point. So what do you guys think? What do you guys think is gonna happen?
I think it's hard to determine what is going to happen long term. However, we're talking about a permissionless blockchain, and ideally, I think what's most important are the guardrails that we set up early on, which I think is what we're all working on, right? The
Yeah,
Constitution, DReps, everything. It's literally guardrails that can ensure that the system can survive. Ultimately, though, because it is permissionless, people will do as the system allows them to. And I think everybody should have the freedom to do so. If exchanges decide to participate, guess what? They should be allowed to participate. That's my personal opinion. I think everybody, if it's a right that you have as an ADA holder, and if people are too stupid to keep their ADA on exchanges, then they're literally giving their power to somebody else. We already
yeah,
see that in elections. We already see that around the world. So I don't think that's going to be too different when it comes to on-chain governance.
I totally agree with that. I totally agree with that. Actually, my take on this, I've put it on Twitter, and I said I disapprove of centralized exchanges to vote as a DREP, but I will defend to the death their right to do it.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. It's the same thing when it comes to anybody else who wants to be a D-rep. Like, even if it's somebody that I don't like, I don't agree with their take. If I want fair treatment, then everybody needs to have the same options, the same opportunities, whether it's somebody you agree with or you don't. And I think that's we're seeing a lot of that not happening in the world, and that's why we see cancel culture or many other things that stem from this. I mean, ultimately, we're getting into governance. Governance is, well, by definition, political. So expect a lot of political topics to pop up as we go through the process.
Yep.
Yeah, I got to agree with that too. I the freedom of choice is what's important here. I'm wondering also as governments get involved and they can buy large amounts of data and start influencing the governance on the blockchain itself. So it'd be interesting. It's going to be interesting dynamics as we go
Yep.
forward, I think.
And that's a very interesting take as well, because even if, for example, you find a way to, by consensus or whatever, get yourself all the power, or trying in a way to control the entire governance system, you still have to go through the SPOs. And they might, they, sometimes people tend to forget that, because if you want to change something from the protocol parameter, you don't necessarily need them, except for some specific protocol parameter, which are the PP security group. But there's something to consider, and that is, if you want to change something from the fundamental of the blockchain, you need to go through a hard fork. And ultimately, if they totally disagree with your opinion, they will just not get the upgrade.
It's one of those. It's one of those safeguards. It's one of those guardrails that we have to prevent anything. And I mean, we've had the SPOs operating now for 2+ years. So and I think long term SPOs have their best interest in Cardano's, not necessarily Cardano's best interest, but in an indirect way they do, because that's if Cardano fails, if there's something that an exchange is trying to pass that would say, I don't know, get rid of the cap for ADA, and it would require a fork. I doubt many of the SPOs would be willing to compromise, because that literally is not only compromising Cardano's principles but also their bag. And a lot of people
Yep.
obviously will always react based on their bag.
For that matter, yes. Everything related to SPOs has some form of money incentive, right? Except that the SPO themselves, they do care. I believe that it's been a while, right? I mean, they do care about the blockchain. Whatever will people say, some of them do it for the money, but some of the OGs, if I can call them like that, they do care about the blockchain itself. They want it to work. They want to protect it, and that's what they do every day. So they're not necessarily bad, and I still don't see necessarily them as bad choice for DReps as well. But you have to know that as an ADA holder, I delegate to a stake pool because sometimes for money. But if you delegate to a DRep, it has not necessarily any money incentive because I don't get reward from delegating to a DRep. So I might as well choose a DRep that think the same way that I do for specific governance things or specific parameters. For example, if I would like to see the K parameter goes eventually up to 1,000, I would delegate to a DRep that thinks that it is good for decentralization or anything related to that. Then I would delegate to someone who thinks this way. If I don't, then I'm going to choose another DRep who thinks otherwise. So it's up to you guys. Or if you want to represent yourself, you also can do that. And you can do it privately, which is nice. You can just register. You don't provide any anchors. So you only have your DRep credentials, your identifier, and you vote and you just delegate to yourself. So your voting power is the ADA that you hold. And you can do that as well. It's okay. That's what the system is made for. But if you want to go public, then you have to provide a rationale and an URL anchor explaining what are your intentions if you ever want people to delegate to you. And there's also going to be options for you to be seen into the wallets that everyone uses. So I'm expecting them to have the same kind of panel that we do have for SPOs, right? If you want to delegate to a stake pool, there's those nice panels that you have in your wallets that you can, where you can choose your SPOs depending on the revenue that they make, the amount of ADA delegated to them, or whatever their project is. I'm expecting the same thing for DReps. So you're probably going to have a list of DReps with their rationales and small explanation about what they do, what are their intention towards governance, and you're going to choose yourself a DRep in there, which is kind of cool, if you ask me. So did you guys have any questions about governance actions? Anything you might not understand? Like, I don't know, there was something that has been brought to me which might be confusing, and I'm going to show it to you there. Okay. Do you guys see it well? Is it okay?
Yeah, I see it well.
Yeah? All right.
Yeah.
So these are all the DRep thresholds according to our recommendations. Okay? If you want to change, to update the constitution, you need to cross the DRep threshold and the constitutional committee threshold, which is not shown here because the only reason it's not shown is because you determine the constitutional committee threshold with the governance section that you use to elect them. So whenever you do an update committee governance section, you can readjust, change, or leave their threshold as it is. This is why it's not written in there. That being said, these are all the threshold for every governance actions. If I want, for example, these are the 4 groups, the 4 protocol parameter groups, and that's the confusing part. If I want to change a protocol parameter from the networking group, I need to cross 67% threshold, right? Same thing for economics. But if I want to change the threshold value itself of that group, it is not 67%. Because the protocol parameter that represents the value of the threshold of every group that's shown here is a governance protocol parameter. So again, if I want to change a protocol parameter that's inside the economic group, it's 67%. But if I want to change the threshold to make a change in that group, I need to go through a governance group protocol parameter change. Is it understandable?
I kind of picture like
Sorry.
two different bubbles. Sorry, you can go ahead.
No, just I don't know what these groups are. Maybe if you can just
Oh,
give us a bit highlights.
yes. The groups. There they are. There you go. Okay, so we got the economic group. And the economic group, actually, hold on. I'm just gonna, oh no, I'm not gonna go with the list. But the economic group, it's like it says, it's protocol parameter that's related to economics, just like the treasury expansion or the monetary expansion. So every time you do a transaction, or actually every time the reward is distributed at the end of the epoch, there's a treasury cut, and there is also the monetary expansion that's added to the reward that you get as an SPO before it is spread towards your delegators. So right now the treasury cut is 20%. So the value is 0.2 for that protocol parameter. It's a protocol parameter within the economic group, right? There's different parameters. If you want to have the list, I can share it with you here. I'm just gonna go get it directly from the SIP itself. There it is. And if you scroll down, that's the security right there, and there they are. So these here, do you see them well? Hold on, I'll just try to zoom. There they are. Network, economic. So these are all the economic protocol parameters. Minimum fee coefficient, minimum fee constant, which is the minimum amount of loveless, I'm going to say loveless because it doesn't reach 1 ADA, that it costs for you to make a transaction. Plus the minimum fee coefficient that depends on the size of your transaction itself. And there's also the delegation key deposit. Lovely, it's the key deposit. Oh, actually, that's the that's the stake key deposit. Interesting. The stake key deposit is a protocol parameter for the economic group. So the 2 ADA that you pay as a deposit to register your stake address before delegating to a stake pool or to a DRep, it is an updatable protocol parameter. And you got all those, anything that's economic related within the blockchain, right? The treasury expansion, monetary expansion that I told you about, that's the amount of money that's taken from the reserve and that's added to the reward that you get at the end of each epoch. And then you get the protocol parameter governance group, which is everything that's mentioned into this infographic. Everything. The DRep voting thresholds, all the voting thresholds value for each governance action. The pool voting threshold as well. Same thing. The threshold for SPOs for all the governance action that they're allowed to vote on. What else? The governance action lifetime. How long does your governance action stays on chain before it expired? The deposit for DReps, for DRep key deposit, and the deposit for governance actions. So they're all there. That's the governance related group right there. There's the networking group. If you have any questions, make sure that you can just like cut through, right? The technical group here. Did I say network or technical? It was network, right? Network, yes. Networking group. So the networking group here, you got the maximum block size. So right now it's 90 kilobytes. I'm not wrong, something around that. Maximum transaction size, 16 kilobytes. So for your transaction, you cannot go past 16 kilobytes, or else you're gonna have to find a way to just build another one after, or make two from different UTXOs. Anyway, that's the max transaction size. The headers, anyway, everything that's related to network is right there. And the next and the last one is the technical group. So the one we had a debate recently with the SIP 94, right? The I don't know if we should call it the temperature check. They asked the community and the SPOs if we wanted to raise the it was the desired number of pool to something above 500, because it is right now at 500. So the calculation for the saturation point of the stake pools right now, it's the amount of available supply divided by the number and the actual value of that parameter, which is 500. So you take the actual supply, you divide it by 500, and then you get the saturation point of every stake pool. So as you may already know, right, if we cross that saturation point, people in the delegated to the pool tend to lose reward. So it's a way to make sure that the ADA delegation is nicely spread amongst the community. So that was a big topic recently, right? Like, should we raise that? Some were saying that it was detrimental for the chain because it was going to add to the computation and calculations, and some were saying that some stake pool operators might have like less good hardwares and infrastructures. Again, it's a big debate. And if you guys want to change it, it's a protocol parameter inside the technical group. So if you want to raise that number, you can just make a governance action for protocol parameter change from the technical group. You provide a rationale. Why do you want to do that? Why you think it's useful for the community, etc., etc. And then you do have to cross 67% yes votes from the DReps. And also, you have to be approved by the constitutional committee. So they have to see this and your goal and your governance action as something that is constitutional. So does it follow the Constitution and the guardrails from the Constitution? If yes, then they should vote yes. If no, then they're probably going to vote no anyway. And if they're unsure and are confused, then they will probably go abstain. Yeah. The technical group. Yeah, that was it. These are the 4 groups of related to protocol parameters. Do you have any questions related to that? Or any other questions, actually?
So you have those 4, and then if you go back to the list, there's a constitutional one. It's update to constitution.
Yes.
So I'm trying to understand. We need to get a 67% vote. Let's say we want to do a technical change. So we get that. Is there another vote internal to the technical people that want to update the constitution, or how do you get to both of those? I'm not sure how you get to the 75% to update constitution after you get to the 67%. If that makes sense.
No, these are 2 different governance action. They are separate.
Okay.
Yes, that's yeah. It is confusing because there's 7 types of governance actions. And oh, sorry, I didn't read the chat. Yeah, I know it might be heavy. Okay, there is 7 types of governance action, but there is more threshold than that, and that's the confusing part, because here all these are threshold for the same governance action. It just depends which threshold you're gonna have to cross. Highly depends on which specific protocol parameter you want to change, right? But it's within the same governance action, and you can change more than one protocol parameter per governance action. So if I wanted to, I could try within the same governance action, I could try to change a parameter from the networking group and another one from the governance group. But the threshold that I would have to cross then would be the highest of these two, always. Yeah, so this is one governance action, which is called the protocol parameter update. And this one here as well, that's the update committee. And since the committee can only have two states, normal states when everything goes fine, and a no confidence state is, oh, it's almost finished. Oh my God. Yeah, in 15 minutes it's finished. Okay. So yeah, the no confidence state is when when the community, the SPOs and the DReps manage to ratify a motion of no confidence governance action, which is this one, right? So if you manage to make this pass, you kick out the entire committee and you end up with no committee, and it stalled the entire governance. So it will stop everything from being ratified. It will delay ratification for every other governance action except the update committee. So the only way to fix that is to re-elect a brand new committee. That is going to be above the committee minimum size value. So if I manage to make this pass in this situation, I kick out the old committee, then the only thing I can ratify from now on is the update committee. And actually it's going to be this threshold because we're in a no confidence state. And I'm going to have to elect a minimum of 3 committee members for governance to restart, if I can say it like that. Restart properly. Because if I am under this number, the committee that I just elected will act as if they would vote no on everything. So it will still stall governance. It is tricky, right? Well, not so tricky, but I actually I'm just trying to make it as simple as possible. But I just realized that it is like, it might be confusing a bit, but everything makes sense when you just like when you play with it specifically. Because that's why I try to encourage people to use those features right now. Try to learn right now. Don't wait for it to be on mainnet. Go on SanchoNet, play with those features, try to understand them, ask questions. Actually, I always answer my DMs. Always. And if you want to get involved, I can actually show you many places where you can learn those things before it is on mainnet. At least, if you're interested in it. Yeah.
Is the max term length in epochs 73 epochs or?
Yeah, that's in epoch. This is in epoch, but again, this is not the real maximum value. Because when you make an update committee governance action, you have to automatically. Do I have it somewhere? Yeah, I do. Hold on. Just give me a second. It is the governance 3 infographic. That's right there. Do you guys see it? Yeah, I think you do. Okay, so if you zoom like this, and you go to, where is it? That's update committee right there. Okay. As you can see, every time you add a committee member, so that's a cold key hash for the set committee member, you have to write down the epoch number of his term length for every single one. So as you can see here, this guy, This guy term length is finished at epoch 523, and this guy here, his is longer. It's 3 epoch longer. So how do
I
you?
think that's a girl.
What's that?
That's a girl. I'm just
Oh,
kidding.
it's a. Oh, yeah. She. Thank you. I know. I tend to. Yeah, I have to include the Cardano girls as well. My wife's gonna be mad if I don't. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, I now I remember that's the ash of a yeah, that's a Cardano girl. Now that you mention it, yeah. Uh, so she finishes 3 epochs later. But again, if you want to determine the right number, you have to. If I would, if for example, I would like to elect a constitutional committee member, and I want to use the maximum possible valid term length for that person, then I would add 73 to our. Let's say we are at epoch 500, right? So I would add to that number 73 and the governance action lifetime here, which is 8. So for a maximum of 82, yeah, that's no 81, sorry, 81. So it would be the maximum available, the maximum epoch that I could submit for my governance action to be valid would be 581. And the thing is, why can I addition the 8 with the 73 here is because you never know when it's going to be ratified. And the full lifetime of a governance action is 8 epoch in this case. So you can, the ledger doesn't know when it's going to be ratified, right? It doesn't know in advance when you submit it. So for your governance action to be still valid, you can add 8 to that number. It's just the best way I can explain it. Sorry. If you want to be safe, you can use 73, right? But if you want to go like at the maximum possible value, you can add the governance action lifetime value to that. So if I just put it in the chat, we're at epoch 500. You had 73 and 8. So what I would submit in my governance action would be 581 with that specific key hash that we see here. A key hash, an epoch. A key hash, an epoch. And within the same governance action, you can also remove a constitutional committee member if you wanted to. And here you determine at the end of it the threshold of the entire committee. So in this case, it would be 66% or 66.666666666666666. Is that okay with you guys? So yeah, a pretty silent group. I'm getting nervous.
You're just doing such a good job that we have no question.
I'm sorry. I mean, I actually prefer when people talk with me, right? And then we have those conversations. When I'm just doing a monologue, I don't feel. I feel very nervous. Okay. So yeah, we're almost at the end of it. Paul?
Yeah, hello. I have a question.
Yes.
What is the number of the member of the Constitutional Committee?
The number of, what do you mean? Like the maximum number of it that we can use, or?
Yes.
There's no
The maximum number.
There's no maximum. There is no maximum. If you wanted 100 constitutional committee members, you could have that. But please don't do that. But you can. There's
so
no.
How
Yeah.
How are we going to choose them? How? Based on what? I don't know.
I would say it's, well, I'm hoping for to have community members there, influent community members, and actually I'm gonna push it further by saying that I believe that it is better to have groups of people representing one entity. So I would be an advocate for DAO or group of people to submit a script hash instead of a key hash. So what this means is that you would have a multi-signature pattern for a single vote of the committee. So that would help, I believe, that it would be good against corruption, mainly. Because if I'm within a group of, let's say, 5 persons, and we have our own threshold, let's say 3 votes out of 5, or it could be like all of us. We have to reach full consensus to have at least 1 vote on something. Then it would make it better, I think, as a constitutional committee. How do we determine the maximum number? It just depends mainly on how much committee members you want, pretty much. There's a minimum, but there's no maximum. If you want to elect more, you can. If you want to find a way to leverage IOG, the Cardinal Foundation, and Emergo that are probably going to be there, let's say each one of them represent 1 vote, then they got three. They represent 3 members, and if let's say we have 5 total, and you want more from the community member, more community members to represent us and to be able to leverage their vote, then you can go through that governance action like this and try to elect more. Maybe we can reach up to 7, 8, 9. I don't know. I have no idea. It depends on you guys, pretty much, and on the DReps and SPOs who's going to vote on that action. I think I can answer one last question, and then the call is going to finish by itself, I think. So, any other questions? There was a hand there, no? Okay. Well, then I hope it was all right with you guys. I'm gonna hand the call very soon. Yeah.
It's great. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate you taking the time.
So if you have any questions, maybe I should share the link. I don't know. You can always DM me on Twitter. I usually answer pretty quickly, but if I don't, it's because I sleep, which I don't do very much these days. But you know, let me just Discord. I'm gonna share that link. We have a pretty active group on Discord as well. I tried to look on your channel, Lasky. You don't have any governance related channel, do you?
I do not. The only channel that we have has 0 videos at this time, with I think like 1,000 subscribers. Or are you talking about on the actual Discord itself?
On the
Sorry,
on the Discord itself. Yes.
No, I have not done that. We actually have one. It's just not been opened up to the public yet.
It would be pretty cool. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You have a private one. Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, it's again. We want to avoid like the trolling and all that. So yeah, that's kind of the gist behind it. We want to make sure it's people that are actually interested at the moment, but we do plan to make it public at some point.
Okay. So here in the chat, I shared you the Discord channel. So in my in my pool Discord, actually, there is the Sancho Testnet channel, which is pretty active. Got people from IOG, and everything you see in blue here, they're all DReps. And we actively discuss those things, right? If you have any questions, you want to build a node from the CLI, anything, we can get you through it. And it's easier than you might think. Honestly, it is not hard to build a node. You just need some willpower, actually, and it is understandable stuff. You don't have to be an IT or someone that's like super high tech. I'm pretty sure you can understand those principles. It's just a command line interface. So if you take the time, you can understand that. Or if you want to get involved in governance still and don't want to be too technical in that matter, you can go in the sanchogov.tools website, which is technically under construction right now. And anyway, the call is going to cut. I have to call it now. It's going to cut by itself. I'm sorry, guys. So I hope you liked it. Have a great day.